Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allen. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. On the podcast today, I've got Jeremy McCool from Hevo. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining me. You're out in Brooklyn in the US at the moment, so thank you on this time delay. Well, not time delay. On this, it's kind of four hours behind us over here, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. But it's okay. It's noon for us, so we're just getting into lunchtime. You guys still got the rest of the day to go through.
Well, yeah, it's 4 o'clock here. I'm not ready for clocking off yet, but I've got a little while.
No, we're really just happy to be a part of this. So thanks a lot for having me on today, Liz.
Oh no, it's nice to meet you. So tell me a little bit about yourself, because when I was looking through your background on LinkedIn, I was quite stunned because so you were previously a captain in the US Army for 6 years, weren't you? You've been an adjunct, I have to pronounce that correctly, adjunct professor, and we had a quick chat about that. What that is, but you know, you could tell me all about this anyway. And you're, like I say, you're CEO of Hevo and founder of Hevo. Just tell me about being in the army to start off with. What were you doing? Where were you kind of stationed?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in Baghdad. I was part of a force that was sent from this area called Savannah, Georgia, in the U.S. here. It's a beautiful town, and there's a specific infantry division that was sent forward, and it was part of the Surge program. You might recall that terminology that came around 2007, 2008, when we were trying to figure out how to get an upper hand on the insurgency and the terrorist activity that was happening across the country. Yeah, so I went to Baghdad, spent 15 months there leading troops into combat. I was on the front lines, if you could put it that way, on the ground. Wore many hats, so it wasn't just what you would think, running around with rifles all the time, but actually doing a lot of work around improving the livelihoods of the population and the civilians, and trying to find new, better ways to help them get on with their lives, because so much of it had been broken in that period of time. Yeah. And so we took that as a big task, and so went from there to Brooklyn in 2008, just in time to catch the Great Recession that was taking place.
Oh,
so from Baghdad to Brooklyn, but stayed and went to Columbia University for my master's program. I focused on urban policy and had a little bit of an extra focus on sustainability. Before then, or around that period of time, there still wasn't really anything that was entrepreneurial focused and sustainability, or what we call climate tech today. So I had to figure out a way to kind of create my own journey there. And thankfully, they were open to that. And Hevo quite literally launched as a program of one of the classes I was a part of.
Did it?
So, yeah,
Oh,
I got
goodness.
to pitch it. Imagine walking into a group of your peers in 2010 when there was only less than 20,000 electric cars on roadways worldwide, and telling them that you were going to solve a problem they had no idea that even existed, because nobody even knew what an EV was. So it was a lot of fun, though, because a lot of people weighed in about the pitch and what I could do better in terms of preparing for the inevitability of potentially going forward with it. And I did. Yeah. And I was really, out on my own for so long of that, because it was one of those things where I didn't start off with investors. I'm not an engineer. I didn't have a team. I didn't even have an HQ. I was operating Hevo out of the library at the Teachers College for the first 6+ months. Yeah. And we magically got ourselves into an incubator, the first one in the Northeast in New England area for clean tech. And we snuck in. That's probably the best way to put it.
Good for you.
Yeah, sometimes you got to work your way in a little bit. Just try to bust through the walls, or over the walls, or around the walls. And people were receptive to it. So in between the period of time from when I started Hevo in 2011 and now, I spent 4 years as an adjunct professor at NYU, and it was focused on clean tech entrepreneurship. So I was able to do that for 4 years and help people learn how to start a clean tech company from scratch and create a team and go through that same process I had gone through. And some of them actually did, which is really incredible. So it's been an incredible journey, as you could imagine, over the last 15 years since it started for me.
That sounds amazing. Oh my goodness. So just explain to everybody what Hevo actually does. So you've come from this embryonic stage, you know, to what do you do? What are you kind of, what do you provide? What services and products, etc.?
Yeah, so we're one of the pioneers of wireless EV charging around the world. So what that means is, take it as an example of a mobile phone charger, a wireless mobile phone charger. We've taken the centric technology around the idea of how that works, improved upon it to make it much, much more efficient. As efficient even as you can get with plug-in charging practically at this point. And then improved on how to charge at distances. So different than a mobile phone charger where you have to put the phone directly on the mat. In this case, you can charge over distances of 4, 8, 12 inches and still have a very high efficient charge and have a very high power charge. And on top of that, we've created this entire software ecosystem that helps to improve the entire user experience. One of the biggest challenges, as we were early adopters of using electric cars ourselves, was that we didn't know where to go find these things. And if we could find them, it wasn't guaranteed that we're going to find ones that were operable or that were already in use by somebody else and that there would be a waiting line. And so we started to get to work on not only improving this entire charging experience, but understanding all the details from end to end of what a user would go through that process of becoming an EV owner and driver. It's a challenging thing to go through, and it still is today. In the United States, and I could talk a bit about the UK because we are in the UK today, but in the United States, we deal with the problem of about 20% of our public EV charging infrastructure is not operable. And so you show up and it's kind of a free-for-all. You don't know who's going to be there when you get there, so you might have gone when you thought it was going to be available, and you're stuck. And so we figured out a way to create this unique user charging experience where, just like using Google Maps or Waze or something like that, you put in the address or you touch on the map where you want to go, and then our app, like magic, takes care of all the rest for you. So it calculates performance of the vehicle, the type of chargers that it could use, the type of networks you want to use in terms of your preferences, terrain, traffic, weather, all these things that matter to the range of your battery. And then we plot for you along that route where you're going to stop, how long you're going to stop for, what kind of charger it's going to be, how much it's going to cost you, what the weather's going to be like when you show up. And we do that all at real-time speed for you. So as you're driving, if there are any updates, all of a sudden vehicles are charging at this location that we wanted you to go to, we can redirect you to another location where there's not cars at, or not as many cars, so you can get a charge more efficiently in a timely manner. So there's a lot to this product mix that we created, all with the thought of how do we make it better for users and especially our early adopters' fleets.
Mm-hmm. So right, okay. So you've got the technology that tells people where to go.
That's right.
When they've got there, so do you actually have a wireless charging stations there when they get there? So what happens? What do you do? Do you drive onto it? Do you drive next to it?
Yeah.
What do you do?
That's a great question, right? So you've got options. There's not really at this time any public chargers. We're installing the first ones in the history of the world are being installed over the next 2 years in New York City in a very meaningful way. We've got over 100 chargers that will be going into New York City, and they're hybrid chargers. We're the only company in the world that offers both wireless charging and plug-in charging in one complete kit. Yeah. And the reason why we did that is because the obvious. Everybody has plug-in chargers today and have plug-in charging requirements for their vehicles, but we are working with several major automakers, and one of those is Stellantis, which is Chrysler, Fiat, Peugeot, Maserati. That entire automotive group, that brand, is part of now the partnerships of several partnerships that we have across the globe to help proliferate wireless charging as a factory built-in solution. Drivers will be able to drive with wireless charging factory built-in starting in just the next couple of years. And so one thing about wireless charging that is really cool and really unique, Liz, is that it is universal, unlike plug-in charging. Plug-in charging is problematic because there's all these different types of cable connectors and standards and use cases and all these other things that are out there. With wireless charging, there's one standard, universal standard that gives wireless charging an edge because you don't have to have all these different connectors and styles or anything. So you ask me, what is the user experience like? Well, it depends. If you pull up to a plug-in charger using our Journey software, by the way, that's what our software is called, Journey, because that's what we're helping you do. We're helping you get on with your journey.
Okay. Yeah.
So the Journey app will take you to your next location. If it's a plug-in charger, you pull up, you go through the same process you normally do. It's about a 15-step process to start charging with a plug-in charger that's public. You got to activate it. You got to go through all the validation critiques and all these other things. You plug that in, you go get back in your car. Hopefully you're not wet from the rain or something else. And then you wait for it and you get back out, you do this whole unplugging. With wireless charging, we take those 15 steps and we cut it down to about 2 to 3. It's really remarkable because there's already inside our app, if it is a wireless charging location, especially if it's by Hevo, the app shows you parking alignment. So if you could imagine, you're like, there's this pad that's in the ground. You won't be able to see it. And if you can see it, you'll just see the outline of it in the concrete or in the asphalt. So as you pull up, you're not going to be able to see it because you're driving over it. Well, the app is helping you to align your vehicle at real-time speed. It's like an Atari game. It's like a video game. We've gamified it. So you've got two options. You can look at a screen that's actually on the charging station to do that, or you can look at the app that's on your phone. And we are working to help automakers put this into their in-dash displays as well, so that it's just part of the vehicle ecosystem. So we do see the eventuality of you just having to automatically do it that way. And by the way, by the time this comes around, there's no reason that as you're pulling up to that last 20 or 30 feet or so, you just touch a button and the vehicle automatically parks itself and it starts charging wirelessly, right? So we're already working on that today. We have been working on that with a major tier 1 for autonomous parking, and they're already starting to show it. It's really cool to see it happening because you realize we're not too far away from this future. This is not distant. This is now. It's just a matter of getting all the companies and all the products to play well together now. So it's coming along quite quick.
Because, do you know, it's funny because I was talking to somebody this morning who works for Motability in the UK.
Oh, really?
And we were talking about kind of like, you know, how what disabled people need when they're charging their car. And one of the things we were talking about was the difficulty with the kind of the weight of the cables. So we were talking about, you know, kind of having a cable that's got maybe a balance on it so that it's not difficult or heavy for that disabled person who's having to get out and get in their wheelchair to then plug in their car. But I mean, for what you're saying, they literally just need to drive the car over the wireless charging. What do you call it?
A pad. You can call it just a wireless charge pad.
Like is it like an induction loop then, kind of under the ground?
Yeah, you could say it is in the pad form. It looks actually quite elegant. It's a beautiful design. We're an award-winning company. We have an award-winning design that was
I've seen it.
It is a real pad, and it can be either surface mounted on top of the ground. So if it's in somebody's garage, they don't have to put it into the ground. But if it's in a public location, it may be better for it to go flush mounted in the ground like a manhole cover, or you can even put it under the asphalt. Interesting that you bring up Motability. That is a very unique company with an incredible mission and an incredible team behind it. They have to electrify all 650,000 vehicles under their management to electric in the next 7 years. Yeah. They've already started to electrify something like 13,000 of their vehicles already. and the driver input is love the car, hate the charging. And it's you can imagine it's quite complicated to think about it from the point of view of a person with upper and or lower mobility issues. My mother has one of them. There's no way I could give my mother an electric car and expect for her to be able to plug it in. But what I can do is give my mother an electric car, and she can drive up, park it, walk away, and then on her app, it tells her it's charging. She can check in on it a little bit later on to see what their level is, see what the total cost is. There's no and ifs in this scenario with the wireless. And so the idea for what it does for the three primary customers that we're currently focused on, being logistics, transit, and accessibility, aka disabled drivers, is that those are the ones with the most immediate requirement for wireless charging today. Logistics, you don't have to think too hard about that one, because these are centralized depots or decentralized charging locations for anybody that's driving around, whether they're in lorries or whatever they might need, these vehicles that are going to need to charge. And doing that with a bunch of plug-in charging is A, very costly, B, is going to take a ton of time to get all the electrical hookups put in, and then C, they're always dealing with a lot of cabling problems, whether they have to replace those cables and there's a total cost of ownership problem, whether there's standards and safety requirements that they can't leave charging cables laying around, or in the US, we have union labor restrictions for people to plug in even. With transit, actually our project is an interesting one here that we're doing in New York. It's the first of its kind. It combines transit vehicles that are being used to transport people all throughout the outer boroughs of New York City where there is no mass transit, or what we call mass transit deserts, where there's hundreds of thousands of people every single day that rely on these things that we call dollar rides. They're quite literally vans. You jump on, you pay the driver $1. They kind of go on these loops that are dedicated, and you just jump off where you need to. So now we're going to have 100 plus of those become electric vans and electric shuttles, and they're going to be charging overnight wirelessly at all these little pods that we're going to have, these pads everywhere, so that they can stop in and charge overnight. But during the daytime, there's plug-in charging that we're going to have at the same location. So anybody else that wants to come get a hamburger or go shopping or anywhere at any of these locations, they'll be able to still stop charge and be able to get a little bit of juice while they're doing whatever they want to do. So these are the kinds of things right now that are picking up. And in the UK, Liz, the UK is, in my view and in our company's view, in many ways leading the charge on wireless charging. It's amazing to see the reception and the emphasis to cordless charging that is coming out of that country. It's incredible.
I'm really pleased. So are you actually targeting the same kind of companies over here as well then?
Absolutely. I mean, there is no bigger fleet in all of Europe than Motability. It's the single largest fleet, bigger than any of the transit or logistic companies. They are the single biggest one. And then when you start to look at some of the other customers and people that we're involved with, it's really remarkable. We've got a couple of companies that we've been running projects with in the background now for about a year plus. And so far, we're getting to a point now where they're starting to market it to their customers and prepare for the next stage of things. And some of those are going to obviously be fleet focused, but some of those are also going to be consumer focused, because there will be, like I stated, in the next couple of years, a couple of automakers, and especially European ones, that will offer wireless charging. And again, back to that universal nature of wireless charging. You can pick up a Hevo pad, even if you have wireless charging by one of our other competitors on the vehicle. That doesn't matter. This is the great ease of adoption that we offer. So we've got quite a bit going on actually in the UK, and very proud to be doing it too, because the people get it. The last thing you want to do is get out in the rain and connect a high voltage cable to a big battery pack.
We get plenty of it. We get plenty of rain here.
Just a little bit.
Funny enough, I'm looking out the window now, and it's raining.
It's part of the it's part of the adventure of going and charging in England.
Yeah, I mean, so what kind of? So obviously, you've got to put the wireless charging pad into the ground anyway. What
Yeah.
and actually you must. I'm assuming you've still got to get all the kind of all the sign off and everything for all the electrics and things like that.
Yeah.
How long does it actually take to kind of dig it all out and put the pad in? How different is it compared to putting a normal charge point, kind of one of the ones that you've got in the ground, how different timescale wise is it?
Difficulty in time, it was really no change. And that's directly reported to us by several major energy companies and contractors that have been installing these now. So they don't see it as any additional lift for them. The time is non-de-minimis. It's like less than 30 minutes maybe of extra time potentially. But that at the end of the day, it's really interesting because it doesn't always have to be dug into the ground. And the vehicle needs to have a retrofitted system, right? Or I should say, it needs to have a vehicle package system. So just like a mobile phone can't charge wirelessly without a receiving pad inside of it.
Yeah.
So the pad that's on the vehicle side is much smaller, and it's lightweight, and it's actually the ones that in terms of our company, we've managed to make it very inexpensive. So for an automaker, our targeted price to sell to the automaker is somewhere in the range of like $300. So it's not a big extra cost that you're talking about. And then the charger for your home would be in the range, and again, I'm using US dollars in this case, right?
Yeah.
So would be in the range of about $1,500 US for the charger at home. And the great thing about that is now there's no cords or anything that fray, connectors that die off over time that you have to replace. This is built for long-lasting use. We've got the technology built to a point where we believe you'll be able to get somewhere around 150,000 charging hours off of this equipment before you would ever have to potentially replace parts, not even the entire piece of equipment. To kind of put that into terms that people can understand.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from a point of view of you charging every single day, on average 2 hours per day, this thing's going to last you for about 30 years. So pretty good. Yeah. And it's a good sell on potentially for home buying and things as well going forward. But I would tell you one last thing about this is that it really comes down to people being encouraged to use it, right? We need the customers to say, we want this. And we're getting that, thankfully, from the big fleets. The big fleets have stepped up. They said, we have to have it, which has helped us to go to the automakers and create pull and tell the automakers, hey, we got to get this on.
Yeah, it makes sense. It really does. To actually, I mean, I'm assuming on the vehicle itself, it's not going to be a massive big change to the vehicle to add the receiver so that it universal receiver.
Yeah, that's right.
It's amazing. So
it's quite low profile. It fits the design of the vehicle to be right on the flush of the bottom of the vehicle. Very low profile. You won't even see it. It's just, it snaps on basically onto the bottom of the car.
So just tell me, how long did it take you to develop this kind of proprietary technology? It must. Is that since you actually set up Hevo then, when you were, kind of at uni, college? Yeah, you call it college, don't you?
At least, yeah, yes. But uni, totally understand the point there. So it took about a good year and a half to understand what it was that we needed to build. Because we had to start from nowhere. There wasn't anything existing out there that we could go, this is actually what we're trying to build for.
Yes.
So we had to go figure it out. There wasn't any existing standards. There wasn't any existing automakers out there who had given any kind of suggestions or recommendations or anything that we could use. So we were, all the developers and the early ones like ourselves, we're all doing a bit blindly. And it's about a year and a half of start before we got to something that was starting to look like the right way forward. So we originally kicked off actually the development with NYU, with New York University and their School of Engineering. And that brought us to Brooklyn. So we went from Manhattan to Brooklyn because of that. And that relationship turned into a long-term relationship where we've had people that are still on our team today that started with us at the very, very beginning that we hired in. And so over time, it was about 3.5, 4 years of work before we started to see the product packaging and see the kind of ecosystem around the software and things that we were actually trying to build from day one. So it did take some time. And then once we got to a point where we got comfortable to send it out to customers, we sent it out to big customers around the globe and 4 continents and let them respond to us. And we're talking about big ones, automakers and suppliers and big energy companies. And the responses were all fairly positive, but there was always some things that we needed to work on. We iterated. So by the time we got to the end of 2019, we felt like we were in a leader's position to go out and certify the technology. And in 2020, even during the pandemic, we kicked off the 2 primary certification requirements. UL, which stands for Underwriters Laboratories, and that's a single unifying standard for all grid-connected technologies. Anything that has high power usage like this, any EV charging, plug-in charging, whatever, they have to get UL certified in order to be sold, especially around Europe and the United States, but typically around the world.
Okay.
So we got UL certification and we got the automotive certification, which was the universal standards, what is called Society of Automotive Engineers, or SAE. So we became the first company, and still, as we know of today, the only company in the world to have achieved those 2 standards. But we do know that there are other companies out there that will certainly achieve them within some short period of time, we'd imagine.
So are there other wireless charging companies, EV charging companies out there besides yourself then?
There are.
Or
there
just
are.
starting? Yeah.
But no, they've been actually at it for a while. Some of them even longer than us. Okay. And so a couple of those companies are out of the U.S., some are out of Europe, one's out of Israel, even out of Korea. And so we've watched as much as you can, because there's not a lot of people out there like us that have been trying to get on with this and to build this and bring it forward. This technology has actually been on electric vehicles that were being sold before. And it's just that the suppliers weren't able to stay up with what the requirements were for the automakers, and so the automakers discontinued it. And so it's had some starts and stops. But our technology has never been factory built into an automaker or tried in any kind of shape or form that you would think of like, oh, I can go buy it from a dealership or something. Nobody has really been able to achieve that. And so this is going to be the first real start of it. And automakers have been incrementally being involved, trying to help encourage us and create support to help get this technology forward, because they understand. People don't want to get out and plug in. They get it. And there's no way you can do that with autonomous parking. It's ludicrous to think that anybody would ever do that, right? Who's going to have a car that can park itself and then walk up while it's parking itself and plug it in? That's so silly. It's like walking the dog without the leash on, right? It doesn't make any sense in this kind of case. So it's just now they know that they have to have it, and there's a technological advantage for them to do it, because all of a sudden car companies went from not having real innovation of any major sort over a 100-year period of time. For the most part, there was advancements in things that were just more like improvements or iterations, with the minus of electric windows versus rolling down windows, with the minus the advancement of better windshield wipers and AC cooling. Not a lot more than that advanced. All of a sudden, electric cars came around, and everybody could turn it into a supercomputer. Yeah. And it changed overnight the performance capability of the vehicles, but they love power. They need that juice. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they need. They need to make sure that people can do it much more efficiently. And that's what wireless does.
I was going to say EVs are just amazing technology, like you say. It is just driving. It must. Like I say, I said to you before we started, I've not got one yet. I will be getting one soon. But I know it must be like driving around in a computer with four wheels.
It feels that way, and it's going that way more and more because those vehicles are becoming better equipped with inside technology on the display features. It feels like you're riding around in a Jetsons vehicle more and more, and it feels that way too because it really takes off. They zip, and once you've had that acceleration, Liz, you can't go back. Everything is slow.
I was totally gobsmacked. The first time I took one for a test drive, and I've taken about half a dozen for a test drive. And the first time I took one, and I knew it was going to be fast, but I was just like, oh yeah. I like this.
Oh yeah,
I really like this. So I'm chomping at the bit to actually to get one. I really, really am. So we're not too far off it yet. At the moment,
well,
but
your maintenance is going to go down on the vehicle considerably, right?
Yeah.
You also had the fuel taxes that you guys have to deal with much more aggressively than we do. And I know for a fact, cities like London, you got to pay that, and you got to pay that toll on the way in and that congestion toll on the way out because of it.
Yeah.
And so there's all these nice incentives out there too, but at the end of the day, it's a great machine. You just can't get that thrill the same way. And I come through that by saying I've always been, and my family's always been big gearheads. We've been, my grandfather, my great grandfather are retirees of GM. My father used to work on jets, for the United States Air Force. So we like things that are fast. We like speed. We love vehicles. This has always been in our blood. And it's funny being that's part of our legacy and lineage as a family, and here I am trying to destroy it in so many different kinds of ways. But you know what? Maybe for the better, because it gives people the ability to move on with some new stuff. And I got to tell you something, Liz. We haven't even talked about one of the more sexy things about wireless charging beyond the comfort of being able to stay inside your cabin, not get out in the rain, allowing the automated valet parking, which is that you can also drive and charge at the same time. And that technology is being tested around the world today. And we are a part of that group that is got technology that is being tested to begin the process to make this as seamless as possible. You could just be on your commute and not have to stop and pick up as enough charge to not only get to your commute, but have enough energy to even potentially get back. I mean, it's not in the distance. It's in the now.
Go on.
In the UK.
How would that work then? So, because I've seen something. Say, for example, people were giving me examples of buses. So our buses, they all stop at different stops, and there would be a pad on the floor, probably same as what you're saying, and actually it would be charging them like that. But if we're talking about regular vehicles, not just buses and cars and vans, how would that work then?
So that same pad that's on your vehicle would allow you to do static stop and charge, stop and go, but also to drive and charge at the same time. It's all built within the same system. And so that kind of flexibility allows you to do what we're talking about. So you would have it in a roadway, and you would probably have it in something like a 1 mile long stretch in certain dedicated lanes. And it would only need to be dispersed out every 8 to 10 miles. So every 8 to 10 miles, you have 1 mile of that stretch that's going to have wireless charging in it. But in that 8 to 10 mile range, you're going to get 1 mile charging that will give you an extra 8 to 10 plus miles. So the cost efficiency of doing it this way is significantly cheaper than plug-in or any kind of stop and charge. And what it does for the user, it eliminates all the other challenges like stopping and spending 45 minutes at a stop and charge location. People don't want to do that. We understand it. So
constantly topping. You're topping it up as you're going. Yeah.
Yeah, you're constantly topping up. That's exactly right. And that means you can lower the vehicle cost by eliminating battery requirements. You don't need as much battery. You're not worried about range anxiety. Your battery's going to last longer because you're constantly topping up. And at the end of the day, it's going to be, from the infrastructure point of view, significantly cheaper, but by a huge scale of multiples, because in that 1 mile of charging, we're talking about, for the equipment cost, somewhere in the range of 250,000 US to 500,000 US dollars of equipment. And then the extra cost for layering on the asphalt and all of that. And so to achieve the same capabilities of what we can do with 1 mile, you'd have to put in 3 to 5 extreme fast charging systems with plug-in charging. Those would range in each around $250,000, $100,000 to $250,000 each.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're only charging one car at a time, and people are having to stop and stay for a while, and then people are getting in a line and getting angry about that. So where this really matters initially is going to be certainly like this. This clearly is easy to do with fleets. You brought up buses. Buses could have this in the lane. They could do a stop and go at the individual stops. Same thing with taxis, by the way, with all the LEVC switching over. Perfect example, stop and go charge at the different taxi ranks, at the different bus ranks. But then when they're doing longer travel, they can pick up the charge on the go. So they can take people on those longer distances. And then we can start to introduce it into transit, not only transit, but logistics, so that the DHLs and the other companies that are, FedExes of the world, they can also start to utilize that. And then as automakers start to put wireless charging on the vehicles, then everybody gets the chance to start using it. At least that's the way it seems like it makes sense to how it will roll out, given the data that we have.
No, it's the innovation that we need, isn't it, really, to kind of, and it's about, to me, this is about kind of providing the right mix. I can't imagine that it'll stop everybody from having the regular charge points with the with the cables. Yeah. But over time, you want to actually have that mixture of charging, don't you? The ability, and like going back to what we said about people with mobility issues, that totally takes away any issue, like you said, with regards to, even home, like, home charging. If you're disabled and you just have to drive over the pad, and you've just had to have part of your drive, kind of dug up to put the pad in, once the asphalt's on there, then that's all you have to do, isn't it? And then activate the app. It's perfect.
And actually, you don't even have to activate the app for that part. You pull up and the vehicle, once it's aligned, just automatically starts charging.
Yeah.
And, there's more to the story too, because if we can start to achieve this dynamic charging or in-road charging, so if we can start to achieve this dynamic charging in the next couple of years, how much that will help to proliferate the adoption of electric cars is just unforeseen. Yeah. But we do all agree, though. Everybody agrees that it will accelerate mass adoption, and it will decrease vehicle cost, and it will also do a few more other things that are on the tangential side of the equation, which is you can also connect renewables directly into it from the side of the roads, or off into the little pastures nearby, where people aren't really worried about it. So you can have solar pumping power renewably right into those roads, so you're charging renewably while you drive. You could literally be driving on sunshine. I know that sounds silly and almost corny.
No, it doesn't.
But that's what you could be doing. You could be driving on sunshine and taking that energy back with you home. And now being able to have a wireless charger at your pad at your home means that you could also put that energy back into your home and have it be part of your energy system at your homes. And it's renewable. So now you're driving renewably while you go home or go to work, picking it up. You go back home, you go to your workplace or whatever, and these wireless pads can take energy back from the battery and actually put it back into the grid to help improve the grid with energy from renewable sources. And it's a backup battery for when your power goes out at your home, which we have a lot of in the United States. I don't know how much you have it in the UK. Oh my gosh.
Do you have a lot? Oh my goodness, no. So
my gosh.
Bizarrely enough, so last year, obviously, so when the Queen died, and I live on a close. There's 10 houses on this close, And around the time, this is a weird story, I don't think I've ever said on the podcast, but around the time that the Queen died and they announced it, very shortly after, our close got hit by lightning.
Oh my!
Bizarrely
So she
enough.
did it. The Queen,
Yeah.
the Queen did it.
Yeah,
She,
exactly.
she let you know it wasn't over. She was
Exactly.
still around.
And then about 3 weeks ago, we had a power cut for about 5 or 6 hours. We've lived in this house for 12 years now. We've never ever had any kind of power cuts, and then we had to have another. So we've had 3 things, you know. So we had to have kind of like people digging up the end of the road and trying to get it sorted. So normally
that's
we
probably-
don't get power cuts.
That's probably around when Spare by Harry came out. So we've got two options there for you. I don't want to put that into the dialogue too much, but I just feel happy that, Liz, we had a conversation today and it did get to the Queen that I've never had on any podcast before.
I know it is a real story. Honestly, I am not kidding you. Honestly, that really happened. Bizarrely enough, well, so none of us were in the house at the time, and it blew. So we've got our broadband plug. It blew, kind of box.
Oh,
it
wow.
blew the whole box off the wall.
Okay, that's a big deal.
Yeah, my
That's
son's messaging me when I'm on my way home, sending me a photo, going, "Should this be on the floor?"
Well, if it is, that's where wireless charging could maybe help you.
It should be. Oh my goodness.
We have a lot of power outage problems in the United States because
Do
our grid is decaying, and it's a lot to do with just the hardware that holds like the cables up, as an example.
Yeah,
these little hooks. Those things are decaying pretty reasonably over time because of the natural elements. They're snapping, and then cables are falling to the floor, to the ground. And often that might be in places like high forested areas. And then all of a sudden that's just tinder. It strikes a match, basically. And that's what happened in California, as a matter of fact. And we've had that's what caused one of the worst fires in history. Was that thing. The damage was supreme. Now, we have to deal with these things more and more. And the facts are is, to be able to get the grid systems repaired in a way that would work and bring it up to near 100% again, the way that we hope it would be. Places in California, as an example, Silicon Valley, they know they're going to lose 2 weeks of power per year. They know that, if not more. And so these people that have mansions, they're living in $1 million homes, but they don't have any power to keep the refrigerator on. They're starting to think about, how do we get these vehicles to start powering our homes much faster? They want it today.
Yeah.
And those vehicles could power a home for days, for days, quite literally. So without changing anything, you could still have the tube on. You could, everything's that thing has changed in the way you live. But this is where things can still get complicated, and just the more that you can make that more streamlined and seamless, and remove steps and remove ambiguity in it, and that your battery is ready to charge because it's over the wireless pad. So you're asleep at night, power goes out. You didn't have to do anything about that. Your system was automatically set up to turn on from your battery pack on your vehicle to keep the power on. No change to your life, So there's a lot of really unique things that we're going to be able to do over the next 10 years as we bring this technology forward. That's going to give people hopefully the interest to electrify much faster.
Definitely, because so do you know what's the percentage of people in the States then that have actually got EVs? Because I mean, ours is, I think it's something like, I think it's only quite low, about 18% of people in the UK. What's it like in the States then?
We're below 10, and it depends on the state. We're starting to get to the point where places like California are having annual sales of new cars that are hitting the 10% plus ratio now, which is good. So we're still quite behind. The biggest thing that the U.S. has challenges with is it's such a dispersed country, and we're built differently. There's only a certain amount of cities like New York that has more of this village style life where you can walk or bike or take take the metro or something.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, for the most part, was built around the idea because we came to be as a country in the industrial age when cars were coming out, right? And so we very deeply built out all these suburbs. And because of that, that's been uniquely challenging, actually, to electrification.
Yeah.
A lot of people would choose to do it if they didn't have to drive more than 50 miles a day round trip. And so that's where it starts to get a little bit interesting for them. But major cities across the country, mostly in places initially like New York, San Francisco, LA, these have done very well in the early adopters. New York is remarkably moving very fast to electrification. And it's interesting to see how quick this city is starting to adopt in. But the middle part of the United States is going to take time just because of how dispersed out it is. We need to have the roadway charging. We need to have dynamic charging to really accelerate mass adoption. We do that, then it becomes very easy for people to start to select electric. And there's one more last thing to it. Electric vehicles in the early era were very expensive by about a factor of 40% more expensive than another vehicle of the same kind of type. That is now decreasing in terms of that gap very fast. A lot of that has to do. Okay. Oh my!
Because I wouldn't say that it is yet over here. You haven't
gotten that like that yet.
No, it doesn't actually feel as if we've got to the stage where where we are looking at that. We're not looking at because what they're saying in the UK, I think they're saying about price parity to be about kind of 2027, 2025, 2027. Yeah. So,
still not too far away when we think about it. It's a handful of years. And in the United States, as an example, there's a lot of new government subsidies and things out there that help to get that price very close, if not even now better. And so people are making those decisions around that.
Yeah.
We had to do it in order to kick off the industry, but now it's gotten to the point where those subsidies don't really need to be pushed as hard for a lot of locations, just because the price of the vehicles have sharply decreased. Tesla being one of them, they announced significant decreases in more cost affordable vehicles for mass adoption. Mm-hmm. We see companies like Stellantis and Ford and GM and JLR, Jaguar Land Rover, and these kinds of companies doing a lot of work to try to get those costs more closer to parity. Hopefully you guys can get there soon. I bet you will, though.
I hope so. I was going to say, I do see a lot of Teslas around, as in, and that their fleet, everybody that or most people that I'm talking to if they've got a fleet car, it's mostly a Tesla. And I do get why. I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and he was saying, from 2015, a Tesla's technology, it was so far into the future that some of the OEMs over here haven't actually caught up yet with the technology in a Tesla.
Yeah. It took them some time. They had to. They weren't prepared. It was an antiquated kind of industry. It hadn't been challenged in a very long time. No. And early EV cars that had come out back in the 90s and before then were goofy looking. And so they didn't sell well because they didn't look sharp. The Tesla is what made that different. It looked like a beautiful car that people would want to drive. Of course, it was way more expensive than a normal car, but if you could afford it, you would potentially take it. Now that's not the same situation. There's so many vehicles out there. If you go to China has a surge of EV adoption, much more than anywhere else in the world, and they're going to fully electrify within a leap much faster than everybody else because they have all these car manufacturers there doing it. I was going to tell you this, Liz, as it goes, you should expect to see wireless charging in the UK pretty regularly within the next 3 to 5 years, where it's not a challenge to find it. No. And the automakers are going to help make that happen. They're very keen on it. You brought up Tesla, and Tesla pushed everybody to get on board with this, or either adapt or die. And they realized that within the last couple of years, thankfully. So in the last investor day from Tesla in the last couple of weeks, they teased wireless charging in one of their slideshows. And so there's an opportunity that Tesla may start to offer that potentially in the next year, 2 years. We'll see.
There you go. Exactly. I'm going to ask you one final question, right?
Okay.
As an ex-petrol head, we call you petrol heads because you were saying about the fact that you're into your speed. As an ex-petrol head, then what are you driving now?
I have a 2015 Tesla and a 2012 Nissan Leaf.
Okay.
Looking at my next car, it may not be a car, it may be a truck, but that's a little challenging in this city. So if I had my choice, it would be a truck, but I'd imagine it's going to be something that's a little more spacious and mini SUV-ish. And I would imagine I want to do that in the next year or so, maybe 2 years. I want it to have wireless charging by HEVO on it. So
too right.
Those automakers have to jump on board if they want me to plug their vehicles, which the first car that we're working on right now with Stellantis, with Chrysler, is the Pacifica plug-in hybrid electric. It's their minivan. And so I don't think I'm ready to drive a minivan yet, but I think I would take one of their other vehicles that I know that they might put wireless on in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Have you seen? I don't know whether you know Paul Kirby, who's part of the
I do.
Cafe team. Yeah. Have you seen they were test driving an ID Buzz, a VW ID Buzz. That looked pretty cool.
I saw, and they're so lucky. They get to touch everything before everybody else. And Paul's such a fantastic person.
He is an absolute star. There you go. You just have to talk to him going, right, okay.
Paul, if you're listening to this, put wireless on it next time, please.
Yeah, do it, absolutely. Goodness me. So, right, web addresses. How do people find you then? Is it hevo.com or is that right?
Yeah, that's right. HEVO.com, hevo.com. Fabulous. Super simple. And if you want to follow us, we're on Instagram, Twitter, anything that you need, you can find us very easily. Reach out. There's always some new things that we're working on, and there's always some new updates and news, and it's coming pretty regularly these days on wireless.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I'm going to be watching all this with bated breath, because it just sounds like it's definitely innovation in the making, isn't it? So I can't wait to see all this happen. So Jeremy, I just want to say thank you ever so much for your time. It's been amazing, really lovely to talk to you. And yeah, thank you. I will. Let's watch this space, and I'll get you back on when we find out where else it's going in the world.
I can't wait, and can't wait to make some major announcements for the UK. Keep an eye out for those. Those are coming very soon.
Fabulous. Well, listen, thank you again. Thank you very much. And I'm going to say goodbye to everybody else. I shall see you all later. Bye-bye. You've been watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allen. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon, and you'll receive all of our weekly videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.